We're going.
And we are live. Welcome back to Aussies taking over the NBA. It is Thursday night, I believe.
Happy,
Thursday night. Halloween?
happy Halloween.
Oh, we
That's
should have got
right.
the costumes out. What a missed opportunity that is.
That's all right. I had trick or treaters at my door. I gave them candy and they left.
Oh, that's very noble of you. I had you pegged as someone who just get out of here, get off my lawn.
That was last year, but this year I thought, all right, we'll give them some shitty candy from Golo.
You've mellowed slightly a little bit.
Yeah, that's what
No,
kids
it's
do.
good. Getting older does mellow you out. As always, you can like, share, and subscribe on Aussies Taking Over the NBA. We're on Facebook, YouTube, audio feeds coming through iTunes, Podcast Addict, and SoundCloud.
And we're also on Twitter now. I've been
Oh, this man tweeting.
actually doing some Twittering. So tweeting some pretty funny stuff today. Obviously, we've got a lot to talk about in the very short space between podcasts. A hilarious breakout of action in the NBA today where two giants decided to have a bit of a cuddle, a man hug.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
wrestled
let's
through.
let's start with that. What did you think of that fight? A good fight?
No, it was pretty pathetic, but it was fun.
Nah,
Let's get it up.
like I always think, like part of it is these guys know each other off the court, right? So most beef isn't really that genuine, and if you know it's genuine beef, then they're throwing absolute bombs. And they weren't really throwing bombs in this. They were kind of like scuffling a little bit here and there,
Yeah.
a little bit of goon on both sides, grabbing to the floor. Obviously, both ejected, which was the right call. Do you think?
Yeah, oh yeah, they had to be both ejected from the game. I mean, it was 1-for-1, so both the kind of best players on the teams. It was free for all after that. But
Hmm.
I just love Simmons' hilarious low key chokehold.
Yeah, chokeout. It was a good
Just get
chokeout.
just get on top of him and just throw the sneaky chokehold in. And it kept getting a bit harder, and you could see like Cat reef his neck up, and
Mm.
it was fun. It was
In,
fun to watch.
in slow mo, it looked worse than I think it really was. Like chokeholds happen sometimes when you're trying to pull a guy off. Like it wasn't he just came in and like cranked his neck or something like that. But yeah, it was good to see the action. Philly's hot start. We'll start with the Pacers Pistons actually. Thon Maker again. What are we making of Thon Maker to start the
I don't
season?
know, man. It's just there's no offense being run through him. He's a lot of time he's on the court with Derrick Rose, and Rose is kind of all about that ISO offense, and he's playing really well, Rose. And they're running a lot of pick and rolls for Drummond, and yeah, it just doesn't seem like Dwayne Casey's actually dialed up any offense for Thon to have. He kind of, he's not really giving away points in minutes. I think he's actually defensively gotten a lot better. He's got a little bit quick on the step. Guys are finding it harder to score on him, but his offense is just fallen off a cliff.
Mm.
And I don't know whether that's just because he's just really that deep bench role player now, and that's his role. I think at the Bucks we saw him as more of that hype guy, and that's not what his role is at Detroit. But we see some improvement soon because we didn't get him to play in the World Cup, and he would have been needed to have an off season to get better. And I haven't seen it yet. What about you?
Yeah, I think like at the Bucks, like he showed that he could be like a kind of corner shooter and block shots a little bit, kind of two-dimensional player. At the Pistons, like he's kind of got to do a little bit more. And I would have, like when he first got there, I would have been thinking like, all right, now you can like spread your feet out a little bit, stop just camping in the corner. You've actually got a role here to play an all-round off-the-bench guy, kind of like Drummond, like mirror that Drummond role. But he hasn't really shown that. I thought his perimeter defense wasn't that great last season, but he started to play a lot better defense now. It's just not complementing what they're doing. I don't think it doesn't really fit what's going on there. So I'm not sure. Like I don't think he's good enough really to go into a team and just be able to do whatever he feels like it. But I also feel like the Pistons should be a good enough sort of platform for him to just be, all right, I'll just be like Drummond like for like off the bench. But it's not happening really.
It's not his style. He's that 3-and-D kind of player. I think he needed to get his game in terms of defense. That's happened. But then you look at that three ball, and that's just kind of
Yeah, it's
fallen off
gone.
a cliff. It's gone. And not grabbing boards. I think that's obviously Drummond's role, but not grabbing a lot of boards when he's on the floor. And I think when Blake Griffin comes back, it's just like, where do you slot him in?
Hmm.
You've got Markieff Morris playing that 4 role, so it's kind of like he goes to the bench. Griffin's a starter. Does he come in for Drummond? Like, I don't know where this team's going with him, but he's only playing 10 minutes a game. So when Blake Griffin comes back, you've got to think that that kind of gets reduced even more.
Hmm. 5 blocks already this season. That's not too bad. Only 12 boards in 5 games. Um,
Playing very low minutes though. Look,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think we've got to see how this team kind of progresses. Detroit's had a pretty good start to the year, for I'd say, um, and we'll see how they go. They got a good win against the Pacers, but the Pacers are terrible. So
Yeah, the
got
Pacers, man. Have they won a game yet? I don't think they've even won a game yet.
they won today.
And they've played Detroit, I think, twice or maybe even 3 times. But yeah, and only 1 of 5 from three, which like in 81 minutes this season, you would think he would be shooting more threes, but that's just not his role. I think we've got to see something in the next half of the season really to see him cement something at least down the end of the season if they make the playoffs, and he's going to at least get some minutes, because they made the playoffs last season, and he, like, when Blake Griffin got injured, it was kind of, he was just getting manhandled by Giannis, and it wasn't a good look really for him and his brand
No,
really on the court.
not at all. We'll move on to Simmons and Philly at the Hawks, and this was a close win for Philly. We didn't spot Jonah in this game, but good win in the end. Simmons had an okay game, -4 on the night in terms of plus minus. Shooting was okay. He just seems to have fallen back into his old game. I thought,
Simmons.
yeah, I thought Simmons 2.0 would come out, but it's just like it's a lot of low percentage glass shots, a lot of driving to the bucket, a lot of trying to facilitate, a lot of deep passes, a lot of drive and kick, but not a lot of ISO scoring. And I thought that maybe he would bring out more ISO scoring this game. There was Embiid for this game. There was no Embiid for this game. He sat, um, and we just didn't see enough of Simmons.
Yeah, I think. What do you make of the whole Jonah Bolden thing at the moment?
They've just got too many players. They've got too much depth. Horford can play at the 4-5. Tobias Harris can play at the 4. You know, you've got Kylo Quinn. You've got a lot of guys. Jonah's just gone to that deep bench rotation, and he got some minutes today. We'll talk about that. There was a Bolden sighting today, and he
Mm-hmm.
scored some points, his first points of the season. But I think on any other team, he's going to be at least a first off the bench. He's a good enough player. He
Mm.
really is. 3-and-D player, long. I just think in Brett Brown's system this year, he's giving a lot more minutes to Korkmaz at that 3 spot. I think that they're so stacked at the power forward, and Kylo Quinn's such a good veteran and savvy veteran that there's not a lot of room for Jonah at this point. But Embiid will sit a lot,
Yeah.
and if Horford gets a few games where he's injured, that's you want to have that good deep bench, and that's what Jonah is. But yeah, I think this is just another learning year to play with some elite players, and he's still fairly young anyway. So
Mm. Well, that's the big thing, is that you don't want him to completely fall out of the rotation, and he's with a coach that seemingly likes him and wants to invest some time in him. It kind of put into perspective, like, the whole World Cup thing that he went through, like, to rush all the way back to Philly to then just not really get minutes. I don't know what
it's
was going on there.
it's kind of like the Thon Maker thing. It's like you've told by your coach to stay behind in the off season to work on your game, and really just you should have just gone off and played with the Aussies
Mm.
and played the national, got game time, got some experience in the FIBA ball, which is it's a much craftier way of scoring to the NBA, which is more one-on-one,
Mm.
and develop your game in a field setting, and then come back and play. I don't know. Maybe Thon will be benefit for some time in the G League. I have no idea. Like some actual 30-minute games, shooting the ball, being more creative, and
Mm.
coming back stronger. I don't know what it is, but it seems like Jonah's not being sent to the G League. He's just deep bench rotation for Philly. I think we'll see more of him as they load manage Embiid, load manage Horford down the stretch of the season, and that's when you want a guy like that to still be able to win games.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit of a worry, really, because of the way that whole World Cup thing set a real sort of a marker for how developed he is, if that makes sense. Like, I'm important to this Philly team, and I need to go back and show my worth. Yet he's not really getting minutes, so I don't know. I'm a bit wary of that. I would like to see him play more minutes, but you're right. It's Horford. There's Kylo Quinn, and it looks like Brett Brown seems to have a lot more length in the guards and the small forward position. So there's no real space even for them. Like they're playing some kind of like really well-rounded lineups that don't call for Jonah Bolden to come off the bench. We need some size here, man. Like they kind of got Richardson, Korkmaz is coming off the bench. It's I don't know, man. I kind of see him being squeezed out of this whole setup, really. But it's the investment that Brett Brown has in him. They've got that connection, so I guess that's keeping him there. I hope that's something that'll keep him there.
Yeah, well, he's only 23, 22, so if you get a ring in Philly and then, if it's the same this year, next year,
Whoa, slow down. Nah, just kidding.
there'll be a ring eventually. Anyway, we'll move on to Cavs and Bucks. And big loss for the Cavs. Delhi had some pretty heavy minutes in this one, 21 minutes, 5 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 from 5 from the field, -6 on the night.
Let's swing it around. What do you make of the Bucks to start this season?
They're going to be massively hot and cold. Massively hot and cold. They're a shooting team. They're going to go through slumps. I think that they've lost momentum with Brogdon. Bledsoe's a year older. No Mirotic. I don't know if they've improved or they've just kind of stayed the same.
Yeah, that's kind of not. It looks defensively worse too. Like, I mean, Giannis is obviously a beast in himself. Wes Matthews for Brogdon, I'm not a big fan of. I don't know, man. It just kind of looks like they went slightly backwards a little bit, but they have the potential to maybe be better in, as the season goes on, and as well as they have to kind of load manage Giannis. Like he fell apart not fell apart, but you could tell he tired in the finals. And I've said it on this podcast a bunch of times in the last couple of years. Like I think these teams are now going to start just being like, you know what, Stars are going to play 70 games and you're all going to have to suck it up, because they get to the finals and they're all knackered and it's not a good product. And if you're going to play the 16, like I think Kawhi is kind of the outlier to the rule because he's just an absolute terminator playing through injury like a maniac as well. But I think some of these guys that haven't gone over the hurdle and either won championships or really gotten close or have that championship caliber, I think like in this NBA now, the standard's so high that these guys get to these finals and they can't. Like they just don't have the juice anymore, man. It's not their fault. I just think there's not enough juice to go around in 82 game season and then 16 playoff games or 16 playoff wins minimum. It's so many games. All you need is one off night and then you screwed your whole season basically in the postseason.
I think that, we've all seen you need to get to about 55 wins if you're going to take the title out in the East or West, 55, 60 wins. That is when, your main guy, especially if they're a big, you need to load manage your bigs, like Embiid. Then you play him 64 games a year. You don't play him back-to-backs. There's no point. You've got a deep bench. You've got Jonah coming in at like third center. You don't need to play your star players. I think teams that will struggle at certain positions in deep bench situations, or I was going to say the Warriors, but
we'll get to the Warriors. It's okay.
We'll get to the Warriors, but no one's talked about Dallas and load managing Porzingis. They're just going to play him for 82 games. We'll get on to things in a minute, but I'm just talking about how they load their players, and you just see these teams that have the 2-3 stars. And today, Kawhi didn't play, and the Clippers were terrible.
Yeah, they look really, really awful without. We'll get to Jazz Clippers, and they don't look very good. One other thing I was kind of thinking about is that, these teams now have stacked rosters. Like we kind of, I think at the start of last season, all sort of through last season, we were sort of going towards the, really well-rounded roster, well-constructed. This looks like a good team. Now, like, at the back end of this, the last season, start of this season, we were kind of looking at it going, what's going on with some of these rosters? Like, they've just got players for days. Like, what's going on here? Now I'm starting to see, like, some of these rosters are super loaded up, like, with players where you're just like, why have you got, like, Wes Matthews coming off the bench third Bucks? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And Kyle Korver, like, why? Like, but then you kind of take into account that argument of, when you get to the finals, you're going to have a super deep roster of, 8, 9, 10 guys who can contribute now. It's not just going to be your Houston 7 guys anymore. Like, I don't think teams are really going to be able to get away with that. The standard's just too high. The standard of the league is just way too high.
Yep.
But yeah, so we'll just sneak past the Cavs there on that one. We'll come back to those Cavs a little bit later. Spurs Blazers. What do you think of that game? Did you watch any of that game?
I did. Paddy was pretty good.
Man, he's just such a perfect bench guy. I just cannot say enough good things about Paddy. After that, like how feel good that World Cup run was. He got his spot in the limelight. He's such just an underrated, underappreciated player in Australia's like sporting culture. I feel like.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, he's been our top NBA player for so long, top Australian player for so long. He's won championships. He is a perfect fit on any team. Like no one on the Spurs has a bad word to say about him. He's been there for so long. You know, I I don't see why in his capacity playing 15 to 18 minutes a night he couldn't play till he was 38, 39. Really, as that kind of coming off the bench sharpshooter, you know, solid minutes. In this game, he had 12 points, two rebounds, 3 assists. That's a pretty good contribution in 22 minutes. You know, shooting 3 of 6.
And it makes it even more like if that was any other team, you'd kind of go, man, great contribution. But you look at the Spurs and you're just like, bloody, just another sort of, 21 minutes, 12 points, fits in the offense. Like the Spurs are just like a machine that just keeps going and going and going. You write them off at your peril every season. The last 6-7 seasons, you basically, if you write them off, it's at your own peril. Like they're not exactly going to make the finals, I don't think, with this lineup. I think they're going to stretch to kind of make it out of maybe the second round in the playoffs. As it lies right now, they've just got such an regular season team that just cranks along. The infrastructure pumps them along, and it's the Spurs, man. They just keep spursing along. It's crazy to watch.
It is. Look, DeRozan's been in really good form as well, so that's another thing. Like he kind of fell out of form towards the end of last year, but he's been in pretty good form. He's a good player. We'll see how that unfolds through the season, and if there's any injuries that kind of occur on that team. We'll take it to the Jazz and the Suns. Bit of Aussie on Aussie crime here, Ingles and Baynes.
Is that the first Aussie on Aussie crime for the season? I think it is.
No, we had Aussie on Aussie crime last week. Last ep. Let me go back.
I'm looking through it here. Philly Celtics, no. OKC Jazz Kings Suns, no. I don't think there has been. Maybe Philly played someone. Philly, Detroit, yeah, you're right. Thon Maker and Simmons last week. Oh, second lot of Aussie on Aussie crime.
Good game.
What do you think of Baynesy? We'll get to a more in-depth Baynesy a little bit later, but what do you think about Joe Ingles? Actually, let's talk about Joe Ingles instead.
Crafty bench player, man. He's probably looking a tad slower than he has done in the last couple of years, but that's not to say that he's not going to facilitate, defend. And be a good part of this Jazz outfit. Look, we've been saying, is this Jazz outfit going to be any good? I don't think we're going to find out till halfway through the season. I think they've got a really good starting five. They've probably got 1 or 2 bench guys, but they're the team that you think this team has got very little depth past 8. Very little depth.
They've got just, I don't know, man. They've got like a sneaky good roster. Like you look at their Bogdanovic acquisition. He's kind of like right-handed Joe Ingles. Like it's just really weird watching him handle the ball. Like it's like right-handed Joe Ingles, man. It's really bizarre. So I think he's been a good pickup. Conley is the one where you're kind of looking at, like a pretty ordinary start to the season. I think he played really well today against the Clippers, but he's got to learn to use Rudy Gobert. Like I was watching that Clippers game today, and to take it back to the Suns game, like the Suns have got a really fast team. And it kind of took Gobert out of his mojo a little bit. And I felt like last year when Rubio was playing really quickly, like it made the whole offense work, but it kind of made Gobert not work when that was happening. Yeah. Whereas I feel like Conley's got more of like a slow down, speed up type of game. Like he's got more nuance in the spaces to kind of make Gobert work a little bit more, a little bit harder, to kind of put him in positions. And I feel like he uses Gobert a lot better than Ricky Rubio did last season. Like Rubio was kind of fast, looking for his own shot a little bit, knew his lanes and how to play his own offense, and was comfortable with Gobert. Like I feel like Conley's still feeling Gobert out a little bit. He wasn't as good in this Suns game, but he was a bit better in the Clippers game. We'll go through.
You've essentially got the world's widest screen for a 3 ball. Like if you play a bit of 2-man game, come around, and shoot behind him, you have the world's widest screen. He's so like horizontally big, and fills so much space that you've essentially got the best screen in the league. And that's what he's got to use more of. He's a good three ball shooter, probably much better than Ricky Rubio. He's a good ISO player, Conley, when he gets going.
But he hasn't shot the three ball that well this season, so I feel like it's still like a bedding in process with Gobert as well.
Yeah, this team probably this Jazz team never hits the stride until about 30 games in the season, and then they go on a tear. So if they get to 500 till then, you're probably going to lock them in for the finals. But
playoffs or finals?
Playoffs.
Yeah,
playoffs.
okay. Yeah, just making sure. You called Philly getting a ring before, so I just thought you got a little bit excited.
I'm calling that, mate. Defensive rating. We'll get to their defensive rating in a minute. But what do you think of the Suns team? This is a team that we completely bagged in the preseason and got called out for it. And
what are they? Are they 2-3 to start the season, 3-2 or something like that? I'll just quickly look at that. Suns. I kind of had in the back of my head they're 3-2. I had in the back of my head like this. They look like a fake tough team. Like when things are going good, they're just like, it was buckets, and buckets get buckets. How good's that? But when it's not going well, they're just like fall in a hole. A couple of times this season they've done that, and a couple of times this season buckets just keep getting buckets. And Booker and the crew of ISO guys like Oubre, like they got a decent, like a sneaky decent balance. Like we panned them at the start of the season, and with Baynes has been playing superb, man. Like he's taken his World Cup form all the way through into this Phoenix team, and we did touch on that. This team might be a really good team where Baynes can come in and just be himself. Like he doesn't have to scheme, he doesn't have to fit into an offense. He can just go out there and just go ham, bumping dudes, getting all over guys, like playing hard defense, sparking the team,
stretching the floor. Yeah. Shooting that three ball at will. I think he took 8 shots today.
It's a little bit too many shots, I think.
Let the man free. He's obviously he's riding high off that World Cup performance. He's enjoying his basketball, man. We could see Baynes in the league for a couple of years. Wouldn't you want to re-sign him as your backup center?
Is he their backup center? He's starting, isn't he? Because Aiton's out basically that drug ban.
But if you were for $5 million a season, wouldn't you sign him as why would you sign Kyle O'Quinn when you can have Aaron Baynes?
Which would you prefer on Philly, Baynes or Kyle O'Quinn?
Baynes.
Yeah, you rate Baynes higher than O'Quinn?
Yeah, definitely.
I like O'Quinn. I think he's a good fit for Philly. O'Quinn.
I think he's a good fit for Philly, but man, you put Baynes 6'10" Baynes on the floor, and that team is so horizontally strong that there's no driving lanes left.
Yeah, I feel like O'Quinn plugs a single man matchup, whereas Baynes gives you the option to play different matchups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Baynes, like a sweet resurgence from him, obviously from Detroit to the Celtics and now at the Suns. We were kind of a little bit worried, do we have to watch the Suns? And is this really going to go well for Baynes? But he's put down roots and he's just doing his thing, man. And it's just been a joy to watch. And they ended up losing. The Jazz, I can see them working it out. I like kind of where the Jazz is at. They maybe need to get somebody later in the season to kind of switch in as another big. I think Ed Davis has still got a little bit of growing to do. But I like where they're at now. We'll move on to the Mavericks at the Nuggets. A good win.
Yeah, it's a good win, I think, for the Mavs. I think the Nugs were that sneaky team last year that I just don't know why they won so many games and why they got so far. Because Jokic looks like a bag of potatoes. He looks like he's just been sipping milkshakes and having cigarettes out on the side and just.
But he always looks like that. He always looks like that. Mad passing though, dude. Like his passing is still unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, but just he needs to put on some muscle. Like this is a professional league, Stop eating the Big Macs. Still no Broekhoff sighting though, which is
scary, man. I'm worried about that. I look at their team too, and again, like we touched on why are they adding so many weird players to this roster? And now you're kind of starting to see that with Porzingis healthy, they can throw different lineups out there now and like different guys here and there. And you've kind of got a carbon copy of Broekhoff in Jackson, who's younger, maybe a little bit more athletic, can handle the ball, maybe a bit more of a prospect. it's kind of just made Broekhoff a bit redundant. You know what I
It
mean?
has a bit. I wonder if he's in line for a waiver, kind of that January waiver. I think there's a couple of Aussies that are probably in line for that waiver. Delhi being one of
Mm.
them, and Broekhoff being the other. But Broekhoff maybe not because he's on such little money.
Yeah, it's true.
He's only 300,000 above the minimum wage. So whereas Delhi's still, I think, still on 7 mil this year.
Yeah,
So maybe,
that's a pretty bad contract, really. It's only really that the Cavs love Delhi, won a championship with him, that he's kind of still there. Really, most other franchises on that kind of contract, taking that kind of money, would probably just be like, out of there. See you later.
yeah,
But yeah, the Mavs, man, I'm hoping Broekhoff gets some minutes because the Mavs look, maybe in a couple of weeks we might be saying overreacting, say, man, the Mavs look pretty scary here. Porzingis, while healthy, man, he's so quick. Like that's the
yeah.
one thing you notice when you watch him. You're just like, that's a 7'3" guy, man. Like, how the hell is he moving that quickly? Like, just he's one step. Even on defense, he moves his feet really quickly. It's crazy. It's kind of like watching Embiid, though. Embiid like looks every bit his size.
Yeah, he looks seven and looks big and
Like a
kind of
like a block of granite, basically.
he does. Mate, did you watch the Taco Fall debut for the Celtics?
Nah, I haven't
Scored a
seen any
bucket.
Taco.
That dude is a massive human being.
Yeah, and
Just
he's kind of like proportionate too. It's kind of weird to
he
see.
does. It's weird. He's not really lanky. He's not even. He's built like he's got some body to him.
Mm.
I don't know, man. If he develops a game at 7'6", that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think what we need to see is basically Dallas move picks and they've already got Boban, don't they?
They got
Yeah, they
Boban,
need to
yeah.
get Taco then. The trio, Taco, Porzingis, and
Is it
Boban.
Boo?
Imagine that. That'd be ridiculous.
Oh,
The
that'd be
7-3
hilarious.
plus trio. That's crazy. But yeah, the Mavs look really good. We'll move on because, we'll wait until Broekhoff maybe makes an appearance before we go all in on the Mavs and overreact. Cavs did get their win against have they got 2 wins now, the Cavs?
They do.
They do. 2-2. Crazy.
Well done, Cavs. Playing well as a team. I think Tristan Thompson stepped up immensely this year. Looking good. Hit his first three.
Sneaky underrated veteran. I think Kevin Love's a bit of a sneaky underrated veteran too.
Kevin Love's still an all-star, really. He's
All-star, really?
3-and-D guy, can
Yeah.
play the 5, can play the 4. Probably, 12 to 18 months beyond all-star. But, hey, he's still a max contract guy. Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, it's just like, they're the same person.
Mm.
I just feel that the same person, and you play them 1 and 2, and you're just playing 2 clones that don't really work.
Yeah, it's like a duo that's the same, basically.
Pretty much, one was picked 5, one was picked at 8. Both kind of ISO ball players, kind of small, bit undersized for the new mutant point guards in the league. Delhi is not really got a shot. It's just
As
not.
in his brand new jumper, he's
Yeah,
that
it's
he's
just
been working on. He's unveiled, and it's gonna take the league by storm. Sorry, I'll stop ripping on him.
yeah. No, look, in this game he had 14 minutes, didn't score, didn't rebound the ball, didn't have an assist, didn't steal the ball, ended up on a plus minus of 0. So, well done. It was a neutral game for Delhi.
Yeah, but that's kind of what he is on this team. Like they've made some picks. They've gone all in kind of on Kevin Love, and they've got a crew of decent sort of guys in Larry Nance and Clarkson. It needs some star potential or some powder, some star powder or power or something, man. It just needs something. Chetty Osman too is sneakily having a bit of an anonymous-y type year. Like last season, he blew out of the gate, and everyone was, oh, Chetty, there was Chetty fever. Chetty Osman was, really good. This season, it's kind of like not feeling it. I'm just like, well, where does he fit in this team? Like they're kind of bringing through Garland and Colin Sexton. They're in flux a little bit. But, if they can, get anywhere near 500 in the East, they've got a real shot at making the playoffs, really, to be honest.
If they get anywhere near 400, they've got a shot of sneaking into the 8th spot. Because the East is pretty weak. We'll move on to the Philly Timberwolves game today, and this is obviously the hilarity ensued in the Karl Anthony Towns Embiid fight. We had a bit of a Jonah Bolden spotting, played some deep garbage time, had 2 minutes, a shot and a steal, 1 from 1. Well done, Jonah. Ben Simmons had a better game, 16 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, plus 19 on the night. Philly are just looking absurdly dangerous.
Tell me about their defense.
102 rating with Embiid off the floor. 85 rating with Embiid on the floor.
It's crazy, man.
That is just stupid, absurd defense. It's like their shortest player is 6'6" on their starting lineup.
That's crazy. And then for how freakish Ben Simmons is in terms of how big he is, man, they're just suffocating teams. It's crazy. They're going to suffocate heaps of teams. They'll probably I still feel like maybe they're not mentally ready to take a gut punch and just come back strong. But we're going to have to wait and see that happen. You know what I mean?
Well, they shouldn't have won that Atlanta game. They should not have won that game. They were 8 points down with 2 minutes left, and Atlanta shit the bed because they're all rookies. But they've just got enough veteran presence to get there and defend and play well. But you see it in the switches, is when Karl Anthony Towns, I'm going to switch onto the point guard, and then it's Ben Simmons. And you're like, yeah, he can defend you. And then Karl Anthony Towns can't back Ben Simmons down and doesn't score. And you're like, okay, this is if this is your switches, I don't see a team that they'll struggle against, except the only team that they would have really struggled against is a team that is like the Warriors, fast-paced, hitting them hard. Maybe the Lakers. I think the size-wise, the Lakers could do it. But, they're not taking 30 or 43 balls a game. I think today they took 18 three shots, 18 shots from three. So the three ball isn't part of their repertoire. They're just getting into the paint and owning teams on the offensive glass and just muscling their way around.
I think it's the real test is going to be those fast teams, those smallish fast teams that get into the cracks. We saw today, obviously, the rumble in the jungle. I feel like teams are going to try that on this season, like try and get in Embiid's face. Like he's shown over the last few years that he doesn't really bite on that. Like there was the Celtic incident where, they got in his head, or they quote unquote got in his head a little bit. But apart from that, I haven't seen him really capitulate mentally at all. And I feel like where they've come from Jimmy Butler to Horford, is a much better fit as a star for them. Like he's low key veteran guy who they're not having to kind of be abrasive up against in their lineup. He's going to fit their lineup. So I feel like mentally they're not going to be breakable like they were last year. Until I've got to see teams really gut punch them and then go through something tough and then bounce back before I'm going to say, they had some struggles mentally. But I don't envisage this team kind of just losing games because they don't feel up to it. Like we kind of saw that a little bit last year.
Yeah, they just lost some random games like against the Bulls. And I don't see that happening this year. I see that they're all kind of locked in and loaded, and it's a championship or nothing, really. And, year one into this, because all these guys are on really long contracts, year one into this dynasty, I'll say, is looking pretty good so far. But, hey, 20 games in and B gets injured. We'll see how it goes. But, Boston almost did it with Horford at the 5. You can't really write them off with Horford there and how deep their team goes into Mike Scott off the bench, Trey Burke, Raul Neto. They've got some good deep bench play. Shake Milton. They've got some Matisse Thybulle, man. They've got some really good young players. They've picked up picks really well, and they've scouted very well. And Brett Brown's also a system guy now, and I think that you won't see any stars this year except Embiid. I don't think you won't see, Simmons going off for 50 points. You won't see Horford going off for 50 points. You'll just see a whole bunch of guys playing a system game to get them to the finals, like the Spurs.
Yeah. Was that always on the cards with Brett Brown? His system?
I don't know. I think it's this is what it's become, because I think this is the culmination of the process, and the process is over now. This is the team to win it, or he loses his job, really.
You reckon?
If they don't win it this year, he's gone.
I hope not.
I hope not as well.
What he's built is pretty, from here over the next few years, it's only going to really get better as Simmons goes onto that rookie max. Embiid's already on the max extension as well, isn't he? From
Yep.
rookie extension. They're kind of got their setup. Really, it's Embiid and Simmons. They've just got to kind of make the right moves around it going forward and add in players and subtract players. That's going to be their big thing over the next few years.
It's Embiid, Simmons, Harris, really.
Mm. Oh yeah, I forgot about Harris. There you go. Just completely forget about Harris, who's 6'11", 6'8", and a pretty good, two-way player. Not the greatest, but still fits their lengthy lineup.
And Horford's locked in for 4 years. And they've got.
Oh shit, he is too, eh?
This is what people don't realize. Even if they don't, this team is locked in. I think Richardson's only got a year left on his contract. That's going to be a tough one. So he's going to have to take less money to stay. But if you're in a system, you're going to win a championship, and you've been in Miami, I think you will. But they've got some pretty deep pockets, and I think that they're ready to go and make a run for it.
Man, Philly, we might be overreacting to them in a couple of weeks as well.
We'll see how we go. We'll move on to Pistons loss to the Raptors today. Thon had a good day. I think he played really well. 12 minutes, 8 points, hit a 3-ball, was efficient from shooting, 3 rebounds, +8 on a night in a loss. He was the only positive player for Detroit in a loss.
What do we think about the Raptors?
Siakam is an all-star.
Yeah.
He's super good. Lowry's not bad. Van Fleet's just turned into a really good player. You've still got Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. This team is a top 4 team in the East. Even without the claw, I think they're still going to go for a deep run in the East.
I still feel like they don't win that championship without Kawhi last season.
No,
if they still had DeRozan, they don't win that championship, even with those other moves.
Yeah.
So maybe we're going to be overreacting to the Raptors, man, being that third team in the East, along with Philly and the Bucks.
I think it'll just be the usual suspects: Boston, Philly, Bucks, Raptors, and a couple of the other teams fighting for the next 4 positions. They're very well coached. They've obviously the Greek freaks there. I think the Raptors are well coached. I think Nick Nurse is a good coach.
He showed actually some pretty good coaching for Canada in the World Cup or the preseason games we saw. Like to quickly take that team and make it into something that looked pretty good against Australia in those warm-up games, and then didn't have the greatest World Cup. I feel like they kind of peaked early in those games. It felt like they worked some things out early, and then as it went on, they couldn't really rejig the roster and kind of make it. And then they brought in Corey Joseph, where it just killed their team because ISO Corey basically. But yeah, we've said a little bit about Thon, so we move on to that Clippers and Jazz game today. Man, that was the Clippers the Jazz played really good, and the Clippers just looked like a shadow of themselves without Kawhi, and that's got to be a little bit scary, really.
They were a 500 team last year. I think they'll play well against some teams and not. But the fact that Paul George and Kawhi are in this team, you can't count them out. I think when Kawhi is the X factor, and then you add Paul George, who can was in the MVP race last year, pretty close, putting up some crazy numbers.
Yeah, you kind of forget Paul George was on this team, because he's out injured. The worry is you can't just take scheduled L's when Kawhi's off the floor, or when he's not playing. That'd be a real worry to just be like, well, we've got to sit Kawhi tonight. We'd probably lose this game. I don't know. I'd be a bit wary about that.
It is a bit wary, but I think they're playing the Spurs tomorrow in a back-to-back, so he doesn't play back-to-backs anymore.
Well, he didn't play this game, so is he going to play tomorrow's game?
He is, yeah. He doesn't play back-to-back, so that's what I think.
That makes sense. Sorry,
yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's a scheduled rest. I think he's just like, I'm load managing myself. This is the way it is, and that'll continue to keep them in good stead. And I think they're a team that get to your finals and get to the playoffs and get to the final. And it can all happen from there. You don't need to win 65 games a season to do anything.
And the Jazz played pretty well in this game. I think even though the Clippers were without Kawhi, they still got a pretty good array, not a great array of bigs. I like Montrezl Harrell, but you kind of up against Gobert, you're still a bit like, well, Gobert might just have him on toast really for verticality. Montrezl hustles a little bit, but if you got guys like Bogdanovic and Ingles, I've noticed they're just sneaky good hustlers, both of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't look physical and doesn't look bruising and painful, but you just see him get in these cracks here and there, veteran presence, the ability for Joe Ingles to take a ball and play make And then the ability on the other side of the floor for Bogdanovic to mirror that and play make. Like, we're back to the mirroring offense again, like a right and left-handed Joe Ingles. And Bogdanovic can shoot the ball. And then Conley played a lot better in this game, where you actually went, oh, right, this is what Conley's capable of. And again, it feels like he's growing. Like, he's got to work out Gobert, but I feel like his stop-start way he runs offense, where he doesn't just run at 100 miles an hour straight under the basket away from everyone and like tossing the ball here and there. He actually takes the ball, tries to create something with it while he's on the ball, and he's worked out Gobert at a couple of nice, really good lobs. And they do these like 3-man dump offs now. Like, Conley will toss it to Gobert, who will like pump fake and then just like give it to somebody who's cutting on the baseline, usually it's either Bogdanovic or Ingles. And then even when Donovan Mitchell's on the floor, like, Conley will like drive and then Gobert fake the pass to a diving Mitchell, who will then put it up for Gobert. Like, they've got such good systems the way they play. Just when they get to the finals, it kind of seems to fall over a little bit, but that's going to be their big test this year. I feel like they're sneakily going to kind of come together with their chemistry just at the right time, just like pure Jazz, like at the end of the season,
Well, I hope that Exum is part of that and he gets back to some of his prized form.
Yeah, we forget about Exum a little bit, actually.
We do. And we've got to come up with Baynes' epic performance today. Obviously, Golden State Warriors losing.
Yeah, fade me, man. Steph broken hand, just brutal.
They will be below 300 this year. I just don't think
300. Yeah, this team. I think we have to get the Cavs out, and we have to get the crystal Larry O'Brien trophy with the stem and cone piece and pass it to the Golden State Warriors. The former 73-9, possibly 9-73 Golden State Warriors, the new Bongwater of the NBA, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that, man. They are just trash lineup.
Just everyone was sort of saying, oh, without Durant, they're going to struggle. It's going to be a struggle. But man, without Clay, this team just doesn't. The perimeter defense is just non-existent. And I think if Clay hadn't have gone down, they don't get D'Angelo Russell, because to have him on the perimeter, just like, there's no defense, man. Like, this doesn't work at all. And they've got no bigs. And Baynes, he just feasted, man. He absolutely feasted. He was just like, nah, I'm taking these guys to school, man. And Eric Paschal and fucking Marquise Chris, Glenn Robinson was just getting beasted on. Like, this Warriors team is, man, the dregs.
It's the dregs of the NBA. I'm gonna love watching the Cavs devour.
There's a couple of good gems in that team though. Jordan Poole, I think, is going to be really good. I watched him in summer league, and now he looks like he's put on a little bit of beef too, as well. And then now it's like basically D'Angelo Russell's team. Like, good luck. And then Draymond Green, instead of having a bunch of really good veterans in like Durant and Iggy, David West and guys like that coming off the bench. Now it's like fucking Draymond Green and some rookies, and it's like Draymond Green isn't that good. Like, he can't hold this team together. Like, he's not that good. Fucking hell. And then Willie Cauley-Stein comes on and just got roasted as well in this game. Like, I think he's not a guy. Like, I feel like JaVale, when they had JaVale McGee, had really, really high potential unlockables there that nobody could see because of the whole JaVale McGee thing, Shaq in the full type thing. Whereas Willie Cauley-Stein, I look at him and just go, there's nothing there to unlock, dude. You're just kind of a run-of-the-mill 7-foot big who's, has stone hands. But the amount of injuries, fade me, man. I can't do it. It's fucking struggle, man. But this Suns team, man, I'm telling you, they beat the Warriors the same way last season, where they get on this roll of just like, we can beat anyone, we'll take anyone. That's kind of like where I get the kind of fake tough type of thing. But when it comes off and another team sort of rolls over for it, that's when they just put up points. And I think they've got a really good array of players. Devin Booker. When Ayton comes back, they're going to be a handful as well. Obviously, Baynes' minutes might reduce, but they're going to be an absolute handful. And yeah, maybe they might go over that 30 wins, but we'll have to wait and see. There could be another overreaction in a couple of weeks.
Yes. Shall we overreact yet? The next pod in...
it's a couple of weeks away. It's about 13 games into the season.
The overreaction pod. Yeah, man. Almost triple-double from Baynes. 24 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, plus 13 on the night. He's also shooting that 3-ball lights out, although this game's a little bit down. But
yeah, 2 of 8. I don't. Maybe 2 of 4 or 2 of 5 is a little bit better. But man, it's the Warriors. You just throw anything up against the Warriors if things are going down. You know what I mean?
But no, all the Aussies are doing really well. Teams are doing well.
Except
I
Broekhoff.
suppose, except Broekhoff. But his team's doing good.
Mm.
Dallas.
Yeah.
We'll be coming back on Sunday evening to discuss more NBA, wrap up all the games, talking around the league. I know it's early in the season, but it's good to watch and good to be back. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. Aussie NBA Takeover.
Yep.
NBA
Oz NBA Takeover, I think, on Twitter and Facebook.
And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Aussies taking over the NBA. We put all our pods up so you can watch them at your leisure. We can also download on SoundCloud and all your good podcasting apps. And we've been getting a lot of love at the moment, so thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to everyone watching and listening. We really appreciate it. So we'll come back Sunday night. Man, it's been a sneaky kind of interesting start. There's just that whole Warriors thing to start the season was just like I'm like almost half a foot out the door. But watching some of the other games, like I've enjoyed watching the Jazz and the Spurs a little bit, and even the Suns have been like, fair enough. Like this Suns team might be all right. So it could be a good season, I think, for the Aussies. And maybe if we pick up another Aussie somewhere along the way, could go maybe to the East again.
Let's see, the G League starts on the 9th. We've got Isaac Humphries, who's on that, and Deng Adel, who are guaranteed on the G League deals. Still trying to get some information about William McDowell White and Maker Maker.
Maker or Mater? I think it's Mater.
I think it's Mater.
Yeah.
Because
Maker's the 7-foot point guard, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that's Maker. Yeah, it's Maker Maker with the Rockets. So don't have any solid information on contracts there. But we've got 2 Aussies in the G League, and we're going to cover them as well. Obviously, a lot of them got 10-day contracts down the end of the season. Be good to see them potentially getting picked up down there as well on deep playoff run teams.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there, and we will see you guys on the next episode on Sunday night.
All right, peeps. All right, take it easy.
Take it easy, peeps.